In the eighth grade, Katherine Giovanni almost committed suicide. And then again when her mother died. But this was the flashpoint in her life that caused her to turn around and walk in a new direction. Forgiveness was huge in changing Katherine's life. Katherine has survived cancer, attempted suicide, a dysfunctional family, and she has been sober for 34 years. How did she get through it? You do not want to miss Katherine's interview today.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Katherine Giovanni is a three-time award-winning best-selling author of 12 books. She's a dynamic speaker, a trainer, and advisor. She is recognized as one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. Welcome, Katherine.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I think in reading this morning, there are many directions that we can go. And we want to cover as much as possible. But let us start with your story. What would make an eighth grader want to die?
Well, I come from a pretty pickled family, meaning my parents were raging alcoholics at the time. Both got sober eventually. And I was different. I was really different. So I was bullied in school. And that combination with an alcoholic family and all the dysfunction and being terribly bullied in school, I thought I had one friend and I thought, nobody would miss me if I just left. That infamous night, I kept hearing in my head, call Vivian, call Vivian, call Vivian, call Vivian, which was my friend at the time. And I called her and she's a vascular surgeon today, but my life was the first she saved. And so she talked me out of it. And I kind of went on from there. It's kind of a cold day when you finally get to that point and you think nobody would miss me. And of course they would have, but it often, I've told people over the years, you never know what somebody's going through. Your smile, an act of kindness, giving somebody your ear might be what tips the scales of them not doing something horrific. From there, I kind of floated through, I kind of floated through life, to be honest with you, kind of like a buoy in the water. And I just kind of floated and I did what people told me to do. And I went to college when it was time. And then one day, my mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So she dried out. We sent her to rehab. And I spent the next few years making amends with her. And she was making amends with me. And we became closer than sisters. And we practically finished each other's sentences. And I got to know the real person finally after all those years. And I had 3 glorious years from her. And then she died of breast cancer, which I eventually got myself. And everybody's life has what I call a flashpoint. And you really don't know you're going through a flashpoint when you're living through it, but that was clearly my life's flashpoint, because I realized right then that I could either live or die. And the path was very clear. I knew it in my soul. So I decided that I wanted to live for both of us. So I quit drinking. It's been 34, 35 years, something like that. And I never really turned back. And it kind of, that kind of stayed with me, and forgiving my mother and her forgiving myself kind of stayed with me for the rest of my life. And I also trusted my intuition, and I kind of followed its guidance, and I followed the wisdom that I was given, which is probably how I got into the concierge industry and how I got into forgiveness. When you go through, when you quit drinking and you go into what they call the rooms and you go through, a program, as most people do, you have to make amends. And back in those days, it was the 19, never mind what year it was. And when I say before the turn of the century, I always think of a covered wagon. I mean, how old am I to be able to say before the turn of the century? It's awful. It's awful. But back in those days, we didn't have technology. And if I could, and I was really shy. So if I could have texted these people, it would have been brilliant. I would have loved to, but it wasn't. I didn't have texting. We could either call them up on the phone and say our sorry and risk getting yelled at, or you could see them in person, which was worse. And you had to say it to their face, which was horrific. So I chose the coward's way out, which is what I thought at the time, and I accidentally stumbled onto the first part of my 7-point forgiveness system. I did it all by myself in my apartment at the time, and I forgave everybody. And as I started to forgive people, I started to feel better. My health got better. See, the thing about when you're depressed and you're sick and you're suicidal and you're upset and you're filled with resentments because of your childhood, you've got all these dark things, you don't feel very well because your body kind of shuts down. So you're usually sick and tired. And you don't have a lot of people to talk to, because who wants to be around a person like that who's dark and depressed and talks about their stuff all the time? So as I forgave people, my body started to feel better. My life started to open up. And about a year or two later, I met my husband of 33 years. Opening up yourself to the good feelings really does help. And here's the big one. You have to finally decide that you are worthy.
Right.
You are worthy enough to lead a life of love. You are worthy enough to to have a good job and relationships and friends and be able to go out once in a while. You are worthy. Many women have this little problem with, I'm not worthy, so
Right.
I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm going to do things for everybody but myself.
Yep.
But you are worthy. And when I finally figured these things out, my life started to click and I started to pay attention. My career took off. I started to write. I've always been a writer. That was my escape. In college, if the exam didn't have an essay, I was sunk, man, because I could always get an A on that essay because I could always pull it out of the brink by my writing skills. So I was very upset when it was like multiple guests and it was like, God damn.
Okay. I have a question. Let's back up a little bit.
Mhm.
Looking at the big picture now of other people, do you believe that you need to make a concentrated effort to forgive? Does it need to be something that you, like you did as a young, in your room, and you make that decision? Do you think that everyone needs to come to that place, or is this unique?
Here's my answer. Forgiveness is given a bad rap. It's got a horrible reputation. Because on a 10 scale, with 10 being horrific, unforgivable, dumpster fire, absolute trauma, and 1 being the easiest person in the world to forgive, like the person who cut you off on I-95 South yesterday, everybody thinks of their number 10 person. And that's completely fair because they're the ones that hurt you the most. But you don't have to forgive that horrible person. And I'm the only one that'll ever say that to you, because there's a lot of people, places, and things, and I did say places and things, stay with me, that you can forgive before you even get to that person. So here's a few things that people get wrong, with all due respect, about forgiveness. First of all, just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably
Right.
don't. I probably don't. I've got boundaries in place. You might be narcissistic. It may not even be appropriate. I'm forgiving for me. Forgiveness is selfish. And here's the big one that trips everybody up. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm giving in all of a sudden and saying you were right and I was wrong. It doesn't
Right.
mean I'm coming over to the dark side. It doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass. You're still wrong. You still have to make amends, probably of some sort, and I still don't want to talk to you. What forgiveness means is just very simple. I want you out of my head. That's it. I want you out
Right.
of my
Right.
head. I want to stop thinking about you. I want to stop dreaming about you. I want you out of my head. And you don't, it's not like a recovery program. You don't have to reach out and talk to these people. Thank you, God. You can do it in the privacy of your own home. That being said, you can forgive dead people because where they are or not doesn't matter a lick. And if you didn't get closure with your mother before she died, now's your chance because it doesn't matter where they are because they're alive and well in your mind.
Right. Good point.
So everybody, the thing about forgiveness is even forgiving the easy ones is going to help your health. It's going to make you feel better and it's going to get these people out of your mind. Why do you want to do it? Because forgiveness, when you're angry and resentful and you're holding grudges and you're holding on to that story, like the dysfunctional story of my youth, it permeates all the conversations. It permeates your thoughts. So it's very hard to pay attention to opportunities that are coming into your world. It could be a money-making opportunity. It could be it could be a health opportunity. Why don't you see it? Because you're so focused on the pain and the resentment, you missed it. It could be your dream relationship. Well, you missed it because you're focused on the pain. So by forgiving even the easy ones, you're going to get some of that crap out of your head and you're going to start to notice opportunities. You're going to start to pay attention to your body. You're not going to get every Tom, Dick, and Harry flu bug that comes down the pike. You're going to start to feel better.
You mentioned AA at one point and the 12-step
Did.
program. So do you feel that it's necessary for you to go to whoever has you're having unforgiveness towards and tell them or talk to them? Or is this strictly between you and yourself?
If you talk to somebody who's in AA or recovery program, they are going to strongly suggest that you go out and make amends face to face. And I agree with that. But I also agree that we are all snowflakes. We are all different. And while it'd be easy to make amends with somebody, it may not be easy to make an amends with somebody else. It depends on the circumstance, it depends on the person, and it depends on the trauma. If it's somebody who is narcissistic and was beating you and you did something, well, it may not be healthy for you to go make
Right.
amends to that person. So I think the circumstances are all different. Did I make amends in person to people? Yeah, I did back in the day. Absolutely, I did. Today, I think to get the party started, you work my system, alone. And then as you branch out and as you start feeling better, maybe you want to have conversations with those people that provided that you are still stuck in your head. See, forgiving somebody that you would rate an 8, a 9, or a 10 on that 10 scale is a bear. It's really, really hard. So my system is going to start you out with the easy ones. The kid in school who tripped you in the hallway. I'm going to start you out with those easy ones. So by the time you get to those harder ones, like your parents or something like that, and you maybe want to salvage a relationship, you'll be better prepared because you would have already forgiven all these other people that were super easy to forgive.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Now, do you want to talk about your book or do you want to talk about your system first?
I'd love to talk about the system
Okay.
because this is going to help a lot of people.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another. Gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
The first thing I want you to do is going to cause most of you to twitch. I want you to turn your cell phone off. And I understand that people don't want to do that. But what I really want is I want you alone in a quiet room, no humans with you. The dog can be in there if you like. But if you can't, I have a client who literally visibly twitched in front of me when I told her to do that. It was funny. But if you can't do that, at least turn the volume off. And I don't want it to vibrate because if it dances in your desk, you're going to turn to it and want to know, right?
Right.
So I want you to get a pen of paper and a pad. And there's a reason why I want you to do that. Years ago in Harvard University, there was a study done with some kids, and they had the first group of kids say their goals out loud to the room. The second group of kids, they had them write them down on with a pad of paper and a pen. They followed them through the years, and the kids who wrote their goals down were twice as successful as the kids who just said their goals out loud to the
Oh,
room.
you're
So
kidding. Wow.
some kind of magic happens when it goes from your head down your arm and to the paper. Now, if you're a Gen Z or something and you really want to use your phone, go for it. It's fine. Now, I want you to write a list of all the people you think you need to forgive. The people that hurt you the most are going to be your top three. It's everybody's top three. I was my own guinea pig. It was mine too. But I want you to keep going and dig deep and don't judge the list. I want you to think back to grammar school and the bully, write the bully's name down. I want you to think about yesterday when somebody stole your parking spot. You had your blinker on and they zipped right into that space. Write down parking spot guy. Write that down in your paper. I want you to write down as many as you can think of. The person who sold your sandwich out of the lunchroom at work, write that person down. Even if you don't know it, lunchroom, sandwich stealer, whatever you want to write. And then I want you to take that list and I want you to number them from 1 to 10. 10 being horrific, 1 being the easiest person in the world. Now you could have 20 number 7s. I don't care. You could skip a number. I also don't care. But what I really care about is when you do the practice, you start with the number 1s and you work your way up to 10. And the whole magic behind the system is energy. Science has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything on our planet has an energy field around it, including this silver microphone I'm talking into right now. Our bodies, everything has an energy field. And Carol, I get people asking me all the time, and they say, I have done the work. I did forgive them, but they're not staying forgiven. I'm mad again. Sure. You got triggered. They're not staying forgiven. Why? Because you didn't forgive the energy. So I want you to look at that first person on the list. And I have science experiments to back me up if you want me to say one of them in the book. I want you to look at the first name. And I want you to imagine in your mind's eye that the person is standing right in front of you. Now, if you're talking about somebody from grammar school, I don't want you to imagine the adult in front of you. I want you to talk to the kid. I want you to see the kid there. If you can't imagine the person in your head, not everybody can, put a chair in front of you, talk to the chair. And that's fine. Now you're alone in the room. This is your party. You can cry, scream, laugh, dance around the room. I don't care. Do what you need to do. Say what you need to say. Here's your moment. Let it all out if you have to. Then I want you to put your hand in your heart. And I want you, and the mantra's in the book, but I want you to say, I completely forgive Carol, for example. I completely forgive the energy around Carol. I completely forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I forgive the energy around the entire relationship. And so it is. Amen. End it any way you like. Now look at the list. Is that number 1? How do you feel? Are you still angry? No? Okay, great. Cross the name off the list. Was it like a level 3 person and you've checked in with your body, you're still kind of angry, the name is still floating in your head? Okay, cross the 3 off, put a 2, wait 24 hours, do it again. And this happened to a friend of mine and she was right in front of me when it happened. It was a level 4 or 5 person. She said that mantra, that very simple mantra, made 1 pass. And then I watched her as she got really mad. And I said, how do you feel? She said, I'm furious. And it shot up to a 10. It went the wrong way. Why? Your brain is the most marvelous, beautiful thing, and it protects you like an overzealous best friend. And what it has is in the back of your head, there's a closet back there and it's padlocked. And there's a movie in the closet playing. You don't know it's there. You'd turn it off if you knew it was there, but you don't. And you just, what she did is she said the magic password and her brain opened up the closet and all these memories flew out because the brain said, oh, she's finally ready to remember this. So she wrote down all the memories and we talked about it and she put a 10 by the name and she began the very long path of forgiving that number 10, which takes a while. This is a marathon, not a sprint. But don't judge yourself. Don't do more than 10 a night because you might make yourself sick. I kid you not. And do it before bed because your body heals itself while it's sleeping. But this practice, I do it every night. I usually pair it with a gratitude exercise, and I think of the 3 things I'm most grateful for that day. Some nights, all I can think of is being grateful for the fact that coffee is a thing. But other than that, I think of the 3 things I'm most grateful for, and then I think of the things that I really, really need to forgive, and I go on my list. And I haven't even talked about the unforgivable people yet. That's a slightly different exercise to forgive those number 10s.
I think that's my next question. I don't know if that's your next place you're going, but what about you if you come to a place where you feel I just can't forgive them? Is that part of the exercise as well, or is there something that those people can do?
If you've got, I'm going to use my father as an example. He's been passed for many, many years now. But as I said, you can forgive dead people, and I did. When it comes to somebody you've labeled a number 10, it's really hard. And I couldn't forgive my dad. In fact, I was so angry, I didn't even want to forgive the energy around my father. That's how mad I was. I didn't want to forgive any part of it. So I picked apart some of the memories. So I picked apart one of the Thanksgivings we had together. And I'm actually very serious. And I picked apart the memory and I forgave the table we sat at and the energy around the table. Not kidding. I forgave the chair I sat in, the energy around the chair. I forgave the chair Dad sat in, the energy around the chair. I forgave the people at the table who didn't help when he was, lecturing me, and the energy around the people. I forgave the house we were in, the energy around the house. I forgave the city we were in and the energy around the city. And notice I haven't even forgiven my father yet, but as I forgave all of these things, it took the energy out of the memory. And eventually by picking apart the memory, I was able to get that number 10 down to a 9, and I still haven't forgiven my father yet. I've been picking apart the memory. And that's kind of how you can do this. Let me give you an example. You're driving to work and you've come to a red light and you always go left to go to work. But today, that little bird in your shoulder, it really urged you to go take a right-hand turn. You could get there, but it just took a little longer. So you gave in and you turned right. Took you by your old high school. You'd had a beautiful morning. It was a blue sky day. The coffee was perfect. Your alarm got you up perfectly. It was just a really nice morning. But by the time you get to work, you're pissed off, quite frankly. You had a presentation and you botched it. You started yelling at everybody. What's wrong? People are asking you, what's wrong? And you just look at them and say, I don't know. I guess I'm just grumpy. I'm off today. Well, I can tell you why you're off. You drove by your old high school and you were bullied in that school, and that movie in the back of your head started to play. So what do? It was a trigger. How do you get rid of that trigger? Well, I had to do this, and I actually forgave my grammar school building where I got bullied. I forgave the energy around the building. I forgave the desk I sat at, the chair, the teacher, the classroom, the playground, the kids that stood around and didn't help me. I forgave 1974. There, I'm dating myself. I actually sat down and said, I completely forgive 1974 and the energy around 1974. Why? That's the year I tried to commit suicide. I forgave breast cancer, the energy around. I completely forgive breast cancer, the energy around breast cancer. I forgave the chemo infusion. I forgave the chair. I was sick for 4 years. I forgave radiation. I forgave every part of that journey that I could possibly forgive. And it took all that negative energy away. and I was able to breathe again. Now, you may not be able to get your 10 down to a 9. Maybe you can, but be good to yourself, because it's a journey. And sometimes if it's really, really a bad traumatic event, the only person you might be able to forgive is yourself for getting into the car, for going into the park, stuff like that. If you're the only one you can forgive, that's fine. Forgive what you can and keep going.
I like that. Forgive what you can and keep going. Don't let it
Yes,
hold you
ma'am.
back.
That's the
So,
thing. We think we have to forgive the big things. And here's another thing that everybody thinks that's actually not quite right. Forgive and forget. Okay. I'm from New York City. I guarantee you, without the shadow of a doubt, I can speak for everybody in that city. We don't forget. It's not in our DNA. So there might be a beautiful unicorn human being somewhere on the planet who can forgive this stuff, but I'm not your girl. What I can promise you is when you know you've forgiven, it takes the emotional charge out of the picture. You can look at the person's name, you can meet the person at a party, and you won't care. I'm not kidding. You're not going to hear good. You're not going to feel bad. You won't care. I had an ex-business partner and I was on Facebook, and I am my own guinea pig. I do my own stuff. And usually when I saw her name, you'd have to pull me off the ceiling. Really. I mean, it just sent me. And this particular day, I had done a lot of work to forgive this particular person. And I saw her name on the computer and I didn't care. And I caught myself and I thought, wait a minute, I don't care. It was the most liberating thing that
right.
has ever happened to me. I felt
Wow.
so free. It was gone. The book has all sorts of exercises in it. It's got the mantra, it's got stories, and it's got worksheets at the end if people want worksheets. But the thing about forgiveness is everybody talks about it. Here's the thing about forgiveness, bottom line. Everybody teaches you to forgive. Everybody in the planet. Your pastor, your minister, your parents, your teachers. Nobody teaches you how.
Good
And what
point.
And what if you don't want to? Then what do you
Right.
do?
Right.
My system teaches you how. And if you never get to the people on your list that you rated 8, 9, or 10, I'm actually fine with that, because you're forgiving the people you rated between a 1 and a 7. And that's brilliant. That's huge. Forgiving the little things is huge. You do these little steps and everybody ignores it, but I'm praising the little steps, because even if you're going turtle speed, you're still moving forward. That's why I love turtles.
I like that.
I love
One,
turtles.
one thing that you mentioned briefly, and I think that it's huge, and that is how unforgiveness affects your health. Address that, please.
I can tell you that and here's exactly how it is for the science people in the room. There was a study done in Japan called the Japanese water study. If you Google that, he will just pop right up. It's a guy named, I never can get his name right. I want to say Hasumoto, but trust me, you'll see it. It's right there on the first page. And this is a guy, and in the interest of time, I'll just tell it fast. He took 2 containers of water. One container of water, all he did was talk to it. He spoke love to it. He spoke these beautiful, positive words. The other container of water, hate, real horrible hate. And then that's all he did. He just talked to it. And then he froze the water and he put it under a microscope. The water he spoke love to had these gorgeous crystal snowflake kind of formations. The water he spoke hate to had these black and brown, sick malformations that really looked sick and diseased. What happened? It was the energy of your words. Now think about it. The human body is over 95% water. So when you have bad self-talk, when you are resentful and filled with hate and bitterness, and you're rehashing all these horrible stuff, what do you think you're doing to the water cells within your own body? You're literally making yourself sick by the words and the feelings that you're experiencing. So by forgiving yourself, by forgiving the people around you, by forgiving the people in your past and the people who have passed away, you're literally changing the water cells within your own body. Now, let me be clear. Do as I say, not as I do. I am my own guinea pig. I did this exercise. I must have had, Carol, I must have had 50 people on this list. Easy. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to be a butterfly coming out of a cocoon. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to be a new person. Okay. Didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I did forgive many people on the list. The human body does heal itself while you're sleeping, but I forgave too many people and I forgave too many high level people. And my little water cells, my body, it needed to clear itself. So I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. It was my body trying to process what I had done. So when you do this exercise, please don't do more than 10 people at a time. And if you're doing a high level person, like an 8 or a 9 or a 10 level person, do one a night. And you're not going to get a number 10 level person down to a 1 in one sitting. Ain't going to happen. I promise you. It took me weeks to get my father to forgive my father. And so be kind to yourself. And please, with every fiber of my being, if you don't hear anything else I'm saying, please start with the easy ones and work your way up to those horrific ones. Save them for last.
Do you think that it is on most people, based on your experience, that it's easier or harder to forgive yourself? Like, where do most people find themselves?
It's hard. In that first list that I have everybody write, forgiving yourself is a lot of people put themselves on the list and they often will give themselves a 10. This is the first book of three, and the second book I'm writing with a friend of mine, and it's going to be very focused on how to forgive yourself. And I still want you to do that original list because there's a lot of people that you need to forgive, and it's the people in high school and grammar school and your last work, that kind of thing. But eventually you're going to want to forgive yourself. And I want you to write a second list after you've done, a couple rounds with the first one. And I want you to write down all the situations and people you need to forgive you. I want you to flip it. And then once you write down all the situations where you said the wrong thing and did the wrong thing or did something bad, then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10. And I want you to start with the ones and I want you to move your way all the way up to whatever that one big thing you can't forgive yourself for. Here's how I figured it out. It was my father. I spent weeks getting dad down from a 10 down to a 1. Remember, he's
Wow.
passed. I can't even talk to him. And once I got to the ones, I had somebody look at me. We were just talking one day, and they said, looking back at your life, if you had one thing that you would like to change, what would it be? And my answer was very immediate. My knee-jerk reaction was I would allow my father to walk me down the aisle because 33 years ago, I was so angry at him, and it was a legitimate grievance, to be honest. I didn't let him walk me down the aisle. And
Mhm.
I've always thought that was mean. And I thought, I'm not a mean person, but that was mean. And I shouldn't have done it. And so I realized that once I had gotten my father down to a 1, I realized that in the heat of anger, I probably said things that hurt him.
Right.
So I had to go the other way. So that's when I figured it out that there was stuff in my life that I had done to other people that I wanted them to forgive me for. And this is all about, this is the next, but in the meantime, just take the mantra in the first book and flip the language. In other words, instead of saying, I completely forgive Carol, to use your name as an example, you would want to flip the language by saying, Carol completely forgives me. Now, do we have to meet each
Mm.
other and I have to hash it out face to face? No. You're in your own apartment and you're all alone. This is for you. It's selfish. You're doing this so you can breathe again.
Right.
Forgiving yourself is the hardest thing you'll ever do, and it's huge. But save yourself for last. Do all the other people first, and then write that second list and begin the journey to forgive yourself. But do start with the easy ones.
Well, you certainly have given the audience and myself a lot to think about. And I'm making all kinds of notes, and I'm very anxious to share your story. So my last question is there anything in particular for this audience or just in general that you want us to not forget? Like, Give us the drum roll here.
I don't want you to forget that you're worthy. And I legitimately mean that. You are worthy enough to lead a life of joy. The news and the media and the world we've created is very materialistic, and you look at these rich people who are living this wonderful life, and you think, well, I'm not worthy enough to live that life because I had this, that, and the next thing from my childhood. I'm not worthy enough to live that life or have a good job because of this, that, and the next thing. Yeah, you are. And you could change your life on a dime. How do I know it? I did it. And it's a mental shift more than anything else. Like energy attracts like energy. When you shift, when you start forgiving people, like-minded people are going to float into your life. Better people, people that actually who actually look at you when they say, hi, how are you? In a typical American greeting that Canadians don't have. We love you for that. But Americans, we have this horrible habit of saying, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Nobody wants to know the answer. It's just a greeting. It's stupid. But when you meet somebody who actually waits for the answer, hold on to those people. They're gold. You're going to get these people attracting into your life. Now, to play devil's advocate, there are people who are going to leave your life. You're going to have the jackrabbits because they like the old you. Oh, no, not going to do that. And they just disappear. Happened to me. Bunch of them. Never seen them since. It was weird. Today, I think they call it ghosting. And then you've got the people who, a lot of them are family, but they've been riding with you for years. They like the old you. They wanted the old Katherine. They don't want the new one, so they'll sabotage it because they want that old person back. And you get to decide. Jim Rohn is a very famous motivational speaker, and he said, you are the sum. This changed my life. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who are you spending time with? Keep the ones you like. Toss the other ones. You are worthy to live a life of joy and happiness. It is your birthright.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love that. I thank you so much, Katherine. This has, again, been inspiring, encouraging, uplifting, enlightening. And I really appreciate what you said. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this with my audience. So thank you again, Katherine Giovanni, for being on Never, Ever Give Up Hope. And that certainly applies here too. And I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Katherine.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Never, Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.